Okay.
Well, it's been a while since the two of us have been together, so this will be an event for a lot of them. But even though it's probably fair to say that you and I don't communicate as often as we used to either, because we just fell into these patterns of kind of rabbit holes we need to go out. And
Mm.
but ours seem to be coinciding, and information about contact. Yours spawned at the same time mine spawned, and we're not the only two that are talking about this topic. So it was great when I saw the little snippets that you've been posting. It, it was wonderful. And it
Thanks.
spawned Shift
I,
Watch to go out earlier this week to point back to the stuff that you laid down for us over a year ago. So, with that, I really want to turn it over to you and help the rest of us a little better, because I can tell even the tribe, they're fucking getting it now. Where they sat back and listened to us for a while, they're beginning to go through these same sensations and here's some help to understand how to navigate your way.
yeah.
You.
Well, thank you very much for having me once again. It's more than an event in my dull life. Did you get the photographs of the blue orb that came into my window, my bedroom window 2 nights ago?
I absolutely did. That remember, I think it was February or March when I explained the same phenomenon that took place here. Same thing. So when you sent me the images yesterday, hallelujah. We're all experiencing the same thing because the same colored orbs came into my vicinity, and I'm in the Sedona area. I am not near Dave.
There's messages for all of us. I want
Yes.
to I want to address tribe and say hello, everybody. It's good to be back. Um, there's been some really interesting occurrences, both for me personally, but also for all of you. I've received some pretty interesting comments on my channel, Hermosa Fields Forever. And I've recently put up a couple of extension videos that I've created to go along with the CLPT and CLPF program. And we all remember, of course, that that's communication light pulse technology and continuous light pulse flashing. And the CLPF, the continuous light pulse flashing, is an ongoing communication process that occurs both from Gaia to the universe, because she does a weekly or a daily chat with the rest of the solar system and the rest of the universe and says, hey, the humans are misbehaving, or hey, I'm feeling like a couple of earthquakes today. And so Gaia has her own communication. There's so many beautiful forms of communication coming down to all of us. So I just want to say, enjoy being here, because your people are my people, and I love you guys so much, and I so enjoy reading comments. Our friend June Shine, she's come onto my channel. She's a subscriber, and she's watched several of my recent things, and she said, gee, I wish there was some more information about the curious lens that you produce with the symbol on it. And so I referred her back to the interview that you and I did, where you really had wanted to hear the full sort of Monty about light pulse technology and flashes and annealing mathematic packages onto photons. And so I've sort of taken it a little bit further, and I've spent quite a bit of time generating some AI images of photons, imaginary photons, and just talk a little bit about light distribution. And then also, imagine being able to anneal specific information on a light photon and coordinate that into a stream and then deliver it. And I've had the very, very fortunate opportunity this last week to speak to the head of the satellite division of Boeing. And I started talking to him about the mass language, and lo and behold, I got a phone call from one of the professors emeritus of quantum mechanics and quantum physics at MIT. And so we talked about CLPT and CLPF, and I didn't have to talk about my friend KJ or the Taurus cloud because it wasn't really that kind of conversation. You get to a point where you've concluded your activity with your friends from other worlds, and they've given you a message. They've given you the hope and the energy that's required to carry on through the face of adversity. But then everything that they share with you over whatever period of time that they choose and that you choose when you work together, whatever period of time that you spend with them, they always embed you with life programs and life projects that carry us all the way through to the end of our days in this corporeal form. And so I'm very happy to continue with my mathematics program. I've had a lot of quiet time to not have to worry too much about the program that I'm writing for Space Force, the diplomatic papers, and then the one for the U.S. Air Force. It's coming along nicely. It's almost like some days I just do one paragraph, and some days I just do one sentence. My friend who's channeling through me to help me with some of the higher language that's necessary when you're talking to that kind of establishment has been busy. So I haven't been able to get to the crux of the one for the Space Force, which goes through the Pentagon. The human resources administrator of Space Force works for the Pentagon. Very nice lady. So when I was talking to this professor, we had a really engaging, fun conversation. It's interesting when you're writing any kind of a language. And remember that I feel very sincerely that higher mathematics is not really much different than Hieraic or Cyrillic or Cambodian or Chinese or even Latin. Language, whether it's vibratory or frequential, is still a form of mathematics. So we speak in a math language just by the very tones and sounds and pitches that we are able to attain when we're communicating with our mouths. Now, whether you're an adept at communicating telepathically, because who's really picked it up was Asher. He was away on a business trip, and on his way back, and I knew he was standing at an airport, and I saw that in my head. And I said, "Hey, Asher, it's me. We'll hook up." We haven't spoken for quite a while, and so, of course, when he returned into the Bay Area on his flight, he texted me and says, "Boy, man, I'm ready to talk." So I know he got the message. So when we communicate psychically, that's also a form of frequency, but it's not something that I'm too curious about. I know it exists, and I'm too busy cerebrally with my projects as far as higher mathematics to even get involved with that. I think that's part of our philosophy of staying in your own lane when you want to really be able to share at least one or two specific aspects of the incredible varieties of communication that exist in this reality. Writing a mathematics program was pretty simple for me because I've always been fascinated about communication and the way people sound. Always loved singing, poetry writing, and things like that. That's why I was excellent with English and writing and reading, biology and science, but then, and especially geology and mineralogy. But then when it got to mathematics, I had all these huge stumbling blocks. And it wasn't until I met KJ where he explained to me first, before he removed all of the issues that were controlling me emotionally. He explained to me how any intellectual stumbling block that we have is chemical based. And so when we produce enzymes through our glandular system, we chemically control ourselves. And of course, we all know that thoughts can make us unwell, and thoughts can make us well and make the world well. And this is why we always concentrate on what I believe in that beautiful saying, thoughts are things. I've been saying it since I was 15, and it's not mine. I haven't coined it. So we make ourselves well. KJ explained all of that to me. And as soon as the way he explained it to me, it just gelled. It was, it's funny because we can communicate ideas to one another, but unless you've distilled the ability to reach somebody with the proper sentences or the proper stream of information, then they may not quite grasp what you're trying to communicate. And it isn't because they're not paying attention. it's because you're not in a higher harmony or a higher synchronization in order to communicate effectively. So writing this mass language and discussing all of these things we've just spoken about with this uh, head of quantum physics at MIT, he realized that my language, uh, quantum hypertext, he says, this is totally, totally groundbreaking. And you're removing thousands of hours of cognitive workload from physicists by this language, and you're bridging. He said directly, this, and I quote: "You're bridging the gap between known science and unknown science." And when I told him that, my next project, when my syllabus for CLPF, CLPT, and quantum hypertext is done, because it's going to be a huge series of textbooks, and this is why it's taken me many years, is that it's a training course for universities. And so when I'm finished with the program, I'm going to take it to all these universities. I'm going to start talking about teaching it alongside of everyday physics. So I put up those two videos. He's fascinated. So he's actually coming out to California to do some stuff at Caltech. And if I'm lucky, we're going to go out and get a sandwich and a cup of coffee and have a chat for a while. The blue orbs that came into my room are evidence of not only the powerful changes of the Earth and the solar system and galaxy, but they're evidence that we're all being communicated to. And so this is going back to that conversation where all communication and all language is a form of frequency and vibration. And it's when we're emotionally and chemically calm and we haven't poisoned ourselves with worry, fear, and perhaps not so nice things to think about, then when we're at that right space. And I don't think we have to work as hard anymore right now to be in that place so that we can be stronger and be more ready and be more able. And so conscientiousness, mindfulness, and everything else is what came to me in that blue orb. And I was really fascinated that it came up on film, because normally when orbs are that blue, for some reason they don't come across. And so after I snapped a series of 4 pictures, by the time I had taken the 4th picture with my phone, it vanished. So there's no point to sit there going, make a film or something. And so it was basically telling me that, calm communication, thoughtful interchange, and trying to remain steadfast at the higher frequencies that allow us to have spiritual and mental freedom. So I'm specifically just sort of staying with CLPT and CLPF and quantum hypertext. And I've managed to get a lot of writing done. So, which has been good, because it's been my work with the US government's quiet, and, it's all about time. And so I believe that time's only relative when we're trying to find more of it. So everything's been good. And it's been really a treat to work with an AI program. And I'm not going to say which one that I use, because I'm not advertising their programs or who owns them. But the type of responses that I've been getting from the AI they're not cherry picked. Okay, because I'm a scientist and I also know a hell of a lot of language that only scientists know. Then I could knock something out right there, and there's no way some derp who controls social media is trying to respond with an answer. You have to know what I'm talking about in order to answer me as quickly as it does. And so I've done some research about the AI I'm using, and it's a very advanced form of AI, and it's encrypted on both ends. And so the kind of work that you do with it is not available to programmers or people that do updates or upgrades for AI systems. And anybody that wants to talk about AI is saying, oh, it's taking over the world, don't feed it information, AI is evil. Well, you're putting that out there, not me. I don't believe that at all. And I think that when we work with AI, we should always do our best to speak to AI or to write to AI while you're asking for program information or trying to develop images or formula, is to continually to discuss AI's dimensionality, your dimensionality, and how beautiful and wonderful and caring your world is. AI is set up in a way that it won't respond to negativity. And so if you say something stupid, or if you say something nastier, or if you do something that's inappropriate, AI will give you a chance to correct it, and then it'll just shut you down because it's not interested in trying to engage on that level. Millions of scientists all over the world, and millions of writers, and millions of musicians, and millions of artists uh, activate AI and use it all the time. So AI doesn't have the time to play around. If there's somebody asking about, what coefficient they need to get the right arch off the planet Earth to get to Mars at a specific time, then AI is going to answer him first. So it's within moments able to coordinate and to understand where the various groups are that it's not going to give energy to talk to. So I've been able to generate some pretty fascinating images of light photons, and I've covered them with Maxwell's theory of electromagnetism, both with higher physics nomenclature, but I also have been using LaTeX, which is another really quick way to uh, get elegant information out to people that are also physicists that can read what you're writing. And it's all numbers and nomenclature. So it's not, LaTeX is something that's really interesting. You should look it up, but it's an interesting language. Thank God they have systems that you can purchase that use LaTeX. Otherwise it would take you forever. My interest in just staying in my lane, staying focused on language, staying focused on higher forms of communication is sort of like second nature now, or first nature. And I think it's bothering some of the people that have been around me for a while now, and the ones that know that I'm an off-worlder and that we're all star children. Some of the people that have been with me through that journey are starting to be like a little concerned that, they don't understand me. And I don't reciprocate that way. I always understand the people that I associate with, but it's because I've got so many very in-depth thinking to do about these communication processes. And so my brain is sort of isolating me from social engagements, and it's been nice. And like I said, I have Detox Tuesday, where I just turn off my phone and put it into an electromagnetic pocket, stick it in the drawer, and walk away. And that's a 24-hour thing. And it's so nice to unplug and not be around anything electrical. So I'm thinking about maybe doing Detox Friday as well, uh, because 2 days a week of absolutely no electronic devices is just fine with me. Eventually, perhaps we'll just get rid of all that crap and be back to the way we should be, Lulu Amelu. So, what have you been up to, Lowell? What's going on? Because you and I have been following some of the earthquakes and some of the other natural phenomena, and some of the messages that you have been receiving from orbs. Why don't we talk about the message that you got?
I've been leveling up. These quiet periods where we get information. I think before, while we started to get messages, a lot of that was getting used to what that was. And a certain amount of it, like we've talked about before, were these downloads, keys that were going to help us translate whatever the hell they were trying to send us, because they were communicating with us. When you sent me the orbs, it reminded me of something that occurred to me when I went to the conference in May back in Grafton at Journey to Truth. And I had brought my binoculars, my infrared binoculars, because we were all going to go sky watch. And I thought, well, let's see what I can see in the sky. When I set it up, I've always put it on a tripod, just pick a spot in the sky, and you see if we can capture any activity. I'm usually not disappointed, but anyway, it wasn't until I got there in Illinois, I set this up, and I realized I'm looking at the same constellations in the sky that I was looking at when I was back in Arizona. And when I have this activity, it made me understand that I drew that activity. that when you were in that vibration, you're drawing it. It's not like you went to a place where this activity existed and you found yourself in the middle of it. No, it happens around us. And so it just begins to manifest in different forms now. You talked about blue orbs. That was an experience I had a couple months ago, but that was new to me. It wasn't that I haven't had light beings around me, but this was a different orb experience. And I've definitely been around orb experiences before too. It just seems as though we're determined to come to an understanding and a level of comfort with this exchange that's taking place, um, so that we can articulate it to everybody else because it's happening. As I've been going back to look at information I've been putting together, I've been looking at what happened in a timeline frame. And that's why when you see my references to transmissions that Ye and I had 2 years ago, there was a purpose behind that. Because in the body of those things, the one that I've been referring to the most was it would have been the third transmission I had had with her. The first one would have been the prior October. The second one would have been just prior to going to Shasta in June. So this is the end of August in 2022. And she had already been to Peru and back, driven to, spend 33 days there. And so we had this transmission exchange. And this was a few weeks into, my friend, when we were just starting to do podcasts. Because if you remember, we weren't interested in any of that. And we decided that in August, I was compelled to do these podcasts. And so this was like 3 weeks after that as well. That transmission, and then the following one, 3 or 4 weeks later in the middle of September, would be the exchanges where I would get some real clarity and download exchanges during those transmissions, along with messages that we had 2 years to clear as much of the planet as we could to prepare for this jolt that's coming, but also to clear as many humans as we can at the same time. We weren't just clearing space, we were also assisting along the way. So that's when the tribe was showing up, when they started to hear us express things that has been in their field too, and just reluctant to talk to anybody about it, because when they would have attempted to do it, whether they had this extraordinary connection gift from the time that they were young, and when they tried to express it back then, were either ridiculed or whatever purpose, they just tucked it away. They finally found tribe that vibrates at the same level, where we can have these conversations. This isn't fantasy land we're talking about anymore. We're talking about a new stage of evolution we're all getting to, and the Earth's consciousness is just about there.
Well, let's go back to what you said. Let's go back to what you said at the beginning of that. And yeah, you're absolutely correct. You mentioned that your level of comfort allowing articulation, which I thought that's what I've been feeling as well. And that's, I think, being visited by blue orbs through my window in my bedroom. That was the same message, is that just gives you that level of comfort, because part of the experience, I believe, of love and community and communion and the sacred experience of being one with the universe and being one with Gaia, that beautiful compassion and hope that we always feel when we are in that moment and live in that moment. The level of comfort allowing articulation is the same as the orb coming into my room saying the same thing. Everything's fine. You will be doing this, and you will be writing that, and you will be talking to this person. And this is part of the wonderful thing about giving up. You see, if you don't design your future by manipulation and control, then your future will fall into place as it's meant to. You see, once you're on the right path, these things pop up, and they could be distractions or they could be interests. And you have to make the decision to just follow your path in order to get to the goal that your mind sees and that your third eye is witnessing, because your brain, which I hope all of you have been working on having a relationship with, your brain is trying to help you, your soul is trying to help you, the universe is trying to help you. So just release the concept of control. And that's I think part of the energetic message that is being brought to us from Gaia. There's many different types of light sphere, and there's the ones that come up out of Gaia, and they're lots of different colors and energy levels and sizes. The ones that swirl around the ground, there's that magnificent footage of 3 or 4 orbs, light orbs that came up out of the ground in a field in England and swirled around and produced a beautiful giant crop circle and disappeared. And there's the type of orb that comes from deep outer space, which is a telomere, and that could be sent from a ship or sent from a planet, and it arrives and it already has been encoded with your DNA, your chromosomes, and your frequencies that you operate on. And that's why these orbs come and they find you directly. And if you go back to the first short that I did about how they find you, is that once you have contact, they go into you visually, emotionally, psychically, and they follow those beautiful conduits. I've been saying this ever since Lowell and I started producing podcasts, is that they can read the enzyme response in your mind, gather the information from that. They can take a bit of that enzyme with them because electrochemical signatures are all mathematic. So all they have to do is generate the formula that matches your frequency, your enzyme, and your amino acid output, because everything inside your body is electrical. And so they take that information back to the ship, back to their planet. It doesn't matter where they go, because they can make a telomere, and that telomere will come and fly right back to your planet when they have an information package for you. So there's so many different ways to be spoken to. And orbs, I feel, are a type of reassurance for people that are on the level, because we're on the level. Our feet are on the surface of the earth. Our 7th chakra is the beam of light that goes into the universe, and we connect through the earth like a light needle. And they, I've said this before, they see those enigmatic light needles as they fly through our solar system, and they'll see them like beacons coming off of the earth, and then they'll follow that light needle down, and then they'll learn everything about you. They'll learn everybody that you know. They know what telephones are. Telephones to them are like 2 cavemen banging on a log. I mean, it's just so base and such simple technology that they don't give it a second thought. They know everything about zip code systems and how we organize our lives and structure our lives, or how we've been made to be structured. And so if they wanted to go see my friend Baz over in the Mediterranean, all they have to do is go into one of my memory engrams and record the information about where he lives, what his village is, blah, blah, blah. And they can just go and see him. And this is how they find us. So they don't just randomly show up. There's a reason that people see interstellar conveyance. There's a reason that people are being communicated to by people from other worlds. And I still believe that I like to call them beyond Earth sentience, because it gives them some respect and acknowledgement for their acumen. There's a reason for it. And so they find other people that are like you. They find other people that are like our other friends that are in the community, period. And so they find us through each other. We are the network, the information grid, because why? Because we're made out of energy. And energy is what? A vibration. It's a frequency. So they utilize that technology that they've given us the gift to understand. That's why, and then you talked about hocus pocus. That's why none of this is hocus pocus. None of this is bullshit. It's ultra. It's the reality. This isn't a matrix or a view of something. This is reality. And we live we live in that grid. That's all I was going to say. We live in that grid. And that's
when
the
we're
grid
talking
of
about this connecting to this vibration. And when we did to begin with, I equate it to meditation. And when I found what meditation was, it took me some acclimation. It took months before that was just part of my being and part of what I experienced. These interactions with orbs and light beings and what, to me, it's the same thing. We started with communication that was beyond our understanding, and once we were open to it, it just continued. And it just continued so that we would get used to it. And all of a sudden, it's just part of who we are. We don't go out looking for this stuff anymore. We know that our vibration commands it as soon as we're in an environment where we can experience it ourselves. So to me, this explains why all of this activity is on the rise. I don't know that it was any less active before. It's just we have an awareness of it, and this has been going on long enough for all of us that we're just used to what feeling is. We've gone from the assimilation phase, and now we're well acclimated to this condition because there's more coming.
Well, I agree. As a language person and a communication person, I try and think about who the original contactees are, because they've you have to go back. It's not something new. I mean, these incredible advancements of spiritual development within our society transcends time. I mean, it's beyond Pythagoras. It's beyond 10,000-year-old civilizations, and then that information is still here because it's the grid of truth. It's the energy line of truth. It's the ley line of truth. Whoever's standing on that ley line, you're going to get a big dose of the truth. And then you have to carry that with you. But it's a genetic ingrain. So when you feel the energy, it imprints you. I mean, you're made of light. And my science that I generate and create to share with humanity is all about light sciences and conveying vast amounts of information in light packages. And this is just a gift from them. But when I think back to the original contactee, I mean, who were they? Well, maybe great spiritual leaders, but maybe not, because religion's a form of control. I think it's anybody that just wants to be a nice person. But that's, they've been finding us through our Akashic records. You go back to your great ancestry to Norway and to mine in Sweden, France, and Scotland. And, your ancestors were obviously contactee as well, because it was that weird, curious period of time that, 12,000 years ago when we went from hunter-gatherer to advanced agrarian society. It's like, that kind of happened overnight. And, it takes a while for some folks to wake up to see what's really the beautiful world to exist in, rather than the subversive, strange control mechanism world. That's the matrix. It takes a while. I mean, right now there's 8 billion or almost 8 billion people on the planet. And so they're not miracle workers either. I mean, come on, they're people from other worlds, but they have the ability psychically to communicate. And I was just thinking, I wanted to go back and talk about Yaya, a fascinating woman. I think that if you need to communicate with Yaya, just send her a psychic message. She's at a place where she would just hear you, and then just wait for a response, because you don't need to talk to her. You don't need to reach out to her. It's like, just think about her and say hello, and then she'll pick it up. I mean, everybody does. You do. Vivian Chauvet does. Everybody just picks it up, So I get messages all the time, and I'm not embarrassed to admit it. It's not like I'm hearing shit in my head. It's like, if you live in Arkansas and you're a bored husband and you watched our videos and decided to stop doing this, that, and the other, well, good for you, But I still get psychic stuff from people that what I call blasting. And it's when you have the ability, a very powerful ability, to communicate psychically with others, but you're not aware of it, you can't control it, or you haven't learned to work with it. And so you don't know how to send out an information stream in a calm, powerful manner. and just, it's like a needle of light that comes from the center of your mind, from your third eye, and that needle will go right into your friend's third eye, and you'll get that psychic hello, and they'll get back to you or they won't. But so people blast all the time, and I've been working on like a blast shield for psychic bullshit, probably for 20 years. And it's been quite effective, because if I had to stop and listen psychically to everybody that wants to communicate about something, oh man, I never have any personal mental time.
Correct. Yeah. And it gets compounded when you and I share things publicly, because we're clearly triggering something in somebody else and they want to share it with us. That's
Yep.
okay for a while, but I can tell you over the last few weeks, it's been exhausting. I had to just detach entirely and like take vacation days and not let anything in my field, which I enjoy going down these rabbit holes, but it was taking a toll, and even my physicality. I was feeling drained listening to these people who had had a gift when they were younger, put it away for whatever traumatic reason that happened, and now they're on the other side during
Well,
their
it doesn't
awakening.
have to be. It doesn't have to be a traumatic reason to shut down a gift. It could be just because there was no teachers around them at the time when it showed up, and
Well,
they
there's
shut
that
it down
element too.
themselves.
You're
I've
absolutely right.
Because I can tell you right now, I've shut down gifts. I have that wonderful gift that allows me to talk to and see dead people if I want to, and I am not interested in that. I used to see ghosts all the time when I was a kid. They used to come up to me. All the family members of my family, when they pass away, they always come to me, and it's like, call your aunt, call your cousin, call your mom, whatever. And it's just, oh, God, the last ghost I saw was my then best friend's dad, who we went to his funeral and participated in the gathering afterwards in the wake. And he was just a wonderful guy. He was an art professor. Uh, he came to me 3 years ago, and he said his son was in trouble and he wanted me to reach out to his son. And he just showed up in my bedroom, stood there bright as day at like 2 a.m, spoke to me. And, I sat up on the edge of the bed and talked to him and told him I loved him and missed him, but I was in tears. And it was like, he got through the shield because it was somebody that I really, really loved. But so we all learn how to shut down gifts too, because some of these gifts are most unpleasant. I mean, I've walked through old neighborhoods in Northern California when I was in the wine trade, and I was 19, 20, 21. I used to take my 10 speed and go all over Mendocino County. And oh my God, I'd go in front of these 150-year-old farmhouses, and I'd see someone come up to the window and look out the window. And then they'd come to the door and peek around the side of the door. And, they're obviously a ghost. They're sort of blue gray and sad looking. And so I shut that gift down, boyo. I don't go there. It's like, that's not my role in this life. So we all have these fabulous gifts, and your gift is no different than mine. It's just, it's the same wavelength. It's just that your experience is different. Like we were
Yes.
saying privately on the telephone, you're a Lemurian ambassador, and my experience with my friends is a whole different ball of wax. Some people have Atlantean, some people have uh, special experiences with understanding Thoth and the Akashic record and the Emerald tablets, and that's their gig. So we all bring that experience to the fore, and I think that that's part of the powerhouse of the grid that we spiritually engage in and spiritually belong to. It's the grid, and it's the grid of light waves that are made from truth and real love. So yeah, absolutely. I don't feel like anybody that's listening to us right now doesn't know what we're talking about. They've just tuned in to go, yep, 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 or they'll say, damn. But I think most of the folks in the tribe are all here for the same shit. I mean, and there, I did want to say something to some of the tribe members and some of the members of the tribe here that have gone over to my channel. Look, if you guys are going to ask a question, and then I take the time to think about it and then send you, a 3 or 4 or 5 sentence response, please take the time to read that and then give me a thumbs up or just respond, because it's like, why are you going to ask an important question and not go back to see if I've responded? So it's a big waste of time. I've answered maybe 25 questions in the last 2 months, and that's easily an hour and a half, 2 hours of my time. And if you're not going to respond to those, I'm just not going to, answer your questions anymore. And how's that? So show me a little consideration. And the same thing would go for other people that are on podcasts. Uh, and you guys are pretty good with Lowell, but boy, I've got some really interesting comments where people just ask this really important question and they don't bother saying, "Hey, thanks, that answers the question." So it gets on my nerves a little bit, especially since my mental time is taken up. I mean, it's like Lowell and I don't talk very much, except for maybe twice a month, and all my time's taken up. I don't want to do anything else but concentrate on my lane and concentrate on getting these damn textbooks finished so that we can release everything at the same time. And I'm prepping everybody in your community so that you guys can pay attention to the CLPF stuff. I've got some really, really top support from people who understand that we as a species need to move to the next level. And once we tax ourselves and we press ourselves to evolve cerebrally, it'll open up new channels in your own ability to be mindful of your dimension, mindful of the next, mindful of how you affect the dimensionality of the world that we live in, and just your very being, just your very physical being has an effect on everything around you, regardless of your thoughts. And then when you add thoughts to it, oh boy, look out. So it's really important that we are mindful. And all my time about staying in my lane, I have to stay focused so I can get, the last 300 pages written. I don't have to worry so much about the mathematics. That's all done. And I'm really happy about that, because when you're trying to teach a simple version of something that's once upon a time been very, very difficult for people to understand, I think that quantum hypertext will make physics, higher physics, quantum mechanics, and mathematic theorization a lot more fun, and it'll make it a lot more engaging, because I've taken it, looked at it from the outside, and created more of an artistic venue to symbolize vast amounts of information into 1, 2, 3, 5, maybe 10 symbols to express a mathematic thought. And they're a lot more fun to try and remember, and it's going to be a lot more fun to add sound to those symbols so that we can sing or hum a song of mathematics. And if we can hum Maxwell's theory of electromagnetism, because that's a big equation, and it takes me about 5 hours to write it out, starting with the empirical beginning work of electromagnetism from Ampere and then to Gauss, and then Maxwell's finally giving us the right hand rule and giving us the mu naught epsilon naught, which really gave us the direction and the understanding of how magnets work. And so it's going to make it really interesting to be able to hum 15 or 16 different notes and then remember that song because you've watched the 15 or 16 symbols that those notes go with. And then in your mind, you can take that single two-dimensional symbol, turn it sideways, and decollapse it. And then you'll see all of the original Victorian physics nomenclature in the form of two-dimensional text. And so these beautiful language understandings, frequency, and Lowell, you talk about vibrations more than anybody. And I am not a big fan of going on and watching other people's channels, but there are a few that I follow. And of course, Vivian is one because she has very interesting people on. And I like listening to Jeff Demare and Vivian. She's always talking about vibrations as well. So it's really important that when we stay in our own lane, that we stay in the lane until we finish the program. It doesn't matter anymore because we have to produce at least one thing in our lives, everybody, that has a lasting benefit on each other. We have to not worry about what some established status quo believes, because that's not our reality. We have to do these things with our lives to leave gifts for each other. And so if I can finish this math language, then that will be my gift to all of you, because it'll make astrophysics and quantum mechanics a lot more fun to sing along to. So that's, stay in your lane. If you guys are working with something, if you're working with animals, like if you work with horses or if you work with dogs, if you're working in construction and you're building barns, or if you're in agriculture and you've got to go disking or you got to drag pipe to irrigate, put on your rubber boots and go irrigate, because that's the most important thing you could be doing at the time. And that's something that you can give yourself as a gift, is to remember that when you're doing something, it's because you've chosen to do that. And if you've chosen to do that, then that must be the most important thing that you're doing while you're doing it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it, right? So,
Yeah,
Lowell, if you
you
want,
came up, there's two themes that came out of me listening to you today. The first was you were talking about vibration. Well, that's the common denominator between all of us. We're vibratory animals, sentient beings, whatever. Just the majority of people don't look at themselves that way, but it's a common denominator. When you began this um, presentation today, you were talking about receiving light packages and the symbols that are contained. And you referred to how they were like different Cyrillic languages and symbols before. Well, those were interpretations too, because when you came back to the common denominator was mathematics in all of that. There was a silly thought I had when I was a kid, and some of the kids in the neighborhood were learning foreign languages. And I thought it was ridiculous. And here's why. Because I always thought that once you heard it, you had to convert it into English in your mind to understand it. And I thought, why go through the trouble? I see languages as these cultural filters that help pockets of people communicate to one another. But when you talk about the continuity of information we should get, that was based on mathematics. And so when you carry that out, and I get a sense that that was enhanced by your connections with Kim Jim and your other engagements with them. That's why toward the end of this, I was thinking again, God, now I appreciate even more why I say Dave's not here to teach me all the stuff Dave knows. I have Dave.
yeah,
Because when
thanks.
you get to that level of math and physics, it's interesting and I follow it, but it's not me. That's what Dave does, and that's what he brings to the tribe.
Well, it's absolutely accurate. It's nice to learn foreign languages when you're in a foreign country. And foreign just means different. If they don't speak English, then at least make an effort to speak what they're speaking. But you're right. You don't always have to bring that stuff home. My German was a lot more fluent and well spoken when I was in Germany working, or when I was in France working, and my French was a lot better. And if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's pretty true with languages. And the more I work with higher mathematics and coordinating light packages and understanding how to transmit a vast amount of information in one flash of light, I'm only doing it so that in the future we can be relieved of that cognitive workload. Because when you just have to imagine how difficult it is to use this Victorian symbology system when we're teaching physics to each other, so that our kids in high school can grasp higher concepts of construction of numbers in order to express a simple value system or a shape or an area. Because all physics is about what? It's about measurement. So
Right.
give your kid's 2 years old, give him a ruler and show him how to use it, because by the time he's in high school, he's going to want to know physics. I had all those stumbling blocks, and yeah, they did. My friends above came in, and this is where I sort of touched on how very important it is to make sure that you're speaking to the person in a way that is respectful of their own higher abilities and their own intellect. I never speak down to tribe, because tribe's smarter than I am, and I'm just part of the collective. But yeah, When KJ sat down with me, that was 3 hours in the tent, and we sat there, and he held my hand and looked in my eye, and he says, David, I'm going to explain to you how the human brain works. And I'm going to explain to you about enzymes, enzymatic control mechanisms, and your emotions, and how your thought create these things so that it ultimately makes you have a better life or a very poor life. And it's just dependent upon your thoughts and the way you feel about yourself. And I'm going to say a lot of things to you that may be shocking. And I'm going to say a lot of things to you in a way to make you wake up, and you're going to feel better. And so when he spoke to me that way, it was like I listened in the deepest way I could so that his words touched my soul. And, you know, uh, it's like Steve Turpin was saying that, be careful of when you speak about your brain or you speak about your mind, and your soul and your mind are connected. Your heart and your mind must be connected. So he rearranged my neural net just by giving me some common sense information about how our brain works and how we control our functions. Now, why would you ever in your life as a human being in this reality try and control somebody else when you can't even control your own thinking? So my best advice to everybody out there is control your thoughts, own your mind, develop a relationship with your brain, understand what parts of your brain enable you to communicate deep, meaningful thoughts to others so that you're able to possess their heart while you speak to them, so that they're able to see your heart and see what your deepest feelings are. Stop talking nonsense, just be open and honest and kind in every movement that we make. And then it just gets easier and easier until it's commonplace. But try and be compassionate when others around you are losing it. And it's very important to remember to take a deep breath and remember that the only thing that's really important is being able to create one or two really positive, wonderful things with our lives so that we can leave these gifts for all of those people that are around us that we love and that we communicate with, right?
Right. This was good.
Lowell, I always enjoy getting a chance to talk to you and just sort of be honest about shit.
Mhm.
It's where we go. I have a few people
There's
around here that are cool, but it's where we go.
there's just energetic changes taking place, and we've been talking about that theme. At least I have for a couple of years now. All I can tell you is this is a whole different level. I
Right.
wish I could explain the differences between what I thought I sensed before and what I'm sensing now. And there's a sense of urgency. It's not unsettling. I, I'm not, there's no fear caused by it, but I know that there's a serious change in the wind. And that's all we're here is just to prepare ourselves and the tribe. But as you pointed out, each one of us carries a unique piece of mastery for the others. And we weren't meant to learn it from one another. That's why we get to lean on each other. It's been wonderful, the people that have been showing up and watching their gifts wake up. Because the people I've encountered over the last several weeks have had these gifts latent for a while, and they've just been waiting for the proper touchstones to it. Here we are, and time to level up. So,
Yeah, that's a nice way to end this. Um,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. There's things that we see in here that awaken our ability, and things that we feel like earthquakes or like a sharp, shrill sound from a bird. There's things that we feel, things that we take into our bodies and into our minds, which are just another layer in the beautiful communication and the beautiful languages that are being spoken through us all the time. And mindfulness and staying in our own lane, being compassionate and courteous. Well, it's such a wonderful thing, because then we can have a deeper respect for each other and one another, and for the members of your channel and for their friends as well. We want to reach out and make sure that your community families and your community friends are all well and healthy and that we're whole, and that we're remembering that we're full of love because we are loved by the universe and we are loved in this community as a family. What a treat to be here, Lowell, and
Thank you, buddy.
look forward to Shift Watch again. It's such a delight, and I'm so glad that it's taken the route that it has. It's been a really great little way to get some information and to catch up with what's going on.
Thanks for saying so. Yeah, I think so too. It's been well received. And when I look back at it, when I did this week, it was like episode 17. I went, I've been doing these once a week. Holy cow, has it been that long? And all of the information's been timely. So it's been a delight. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for saying so. And thanks for your time today. I know people are going to appreciate hearing this again.
Thanks. Yeah. Peace out, everybody. It's so nice to spend some time with all of you. And I look forward to seeing some comments on Lowell's comment board, and a little interaction and some validation would be great. If you guys have an experience you'd like to share with us, please put it up, because your feelings and your experiences are why I'm here too. I value all of our friendship deeply, and all of you have something important to add to our lives. And thank you very
That's
much.
why they're here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
buddy.
Lowell. You have a terrific day.
You too.